G'day. It is between the hours of 9 and 10 on a Friday, which means it's approaching that time of the morning where the platform's gaze turns ardently towards those in democratically accountable positions who turned up their nose at us this week and the chance to engage with us and by extension you lot as well. Holier Than Thou it is, of course, this week. There we go. This week I want to focus in, admittedly not for the first time, on local government. And that's because some numbers were recently highlighted by the Post newspaper relating to Wellington City Council's annual budget for communications and engagement staff. Now, nobody loves communication and engagement more than me. I'm mad for it. And media and media staff and comms are absolutely necessary for large organisations to communicate with the public effectively. The reason this particular set of numbers have ended up here, though, is because the council's annual spend on what the Post called spin staff is $5.3 million, accounting for the council's more than 50 communications and engagement staff. Now, I have never in my life had less communications and engagement out of an institution or organisation than I have out of Wellington City Council. We talked about this actually on the show today, and they ignored us a couple of weeks back as well. They've been ignoring us on inquiries of loads of things. This is just the council media staff, by the way, not necessarily individual councillors, but they've just been completely and utterly void of communications and engagement. So what are they all doing? Well, apparently some of them are busy working on the council's new billboard and T-shirt campaign, and this is brilliant. This is like made for this segment. The campaign Absolutely Positively Wellington, which the council says is designed to stop Wellingtonians grumbling about our brilliant city. That's a quote there. So there you have it. That's our wonderful council's response to 15% rate hikes, leaky pipes and homelessness, $5 million on comm staff and a T-shirt that says stop moaning. Brilliant. Money well spent, I say. Here I would note as well that 30 staff in the council are designated to working exclusively on climate change issues. How ludicrous is that? 3 out of the 30 are communications and engagement staff making content for social media. So you just know that's going to be, a team of teenagers. I mean, honestly, the council must have to raise rates just to pay for the ballooning number of lanyards they're going to need, and still no interaction from their media staff. So do better for them. Next on the list this week, one we haven't heard from in a while, actually, Joanna Kidman. For those who've blissfully forgotten the adventures of Joanna Kidman, she heads up the Victoria University's National Centre for Research Excellence for Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism, or Havena Tauri Kora. The project was unveiled by the former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern as part of some wider recommendations for the Royal Inquiry into the Christchurch mosque attacks. There was a period immediately following the COVID era where you just couldn't get away from them. Her and her kindred spirit, Kate Hanna, the co-director of the Disinformation Project, which spits out some equally ludicrous tat, were so prevalent in the everyday New Zealand media landscape that you couldn't turn on the telly or open up stuff without seeing their latest wild accusation or ludicrous claim. Funnily enough, though, as people increasingly found themselves dealing with real, actual problems, public appetite for listening to middle-aged university academics yap on about far-right extremism on Pinterest fell through the floor, and we haven't heard much from them since. This week, though, Kidman was back at it using her Twitter account to speculate on whether the government might be a death cult that hates children. This in response to boot camp rehabilitation for youth offenders being started back up. Now, I thought that's an intriguing statement from the head of a publicly funded university project called A Country at Peace. So I sent over a media inquiry to Wellington University to ask whether they thought it was appropriate for a senior member of their staff claiming to be fighting online extremist rhetoric to be tweeting that the presiding government is a child-hating death cult. I haven't received a response, funnily enough. So they're on the list today. A special mention I just want to give to another Victoria University organisation, Salient Magazine, the student newspaper that has recently made the news for having its press pass renewal cancelled by Parliament or wasn't renewed or something like that. Of course, Salient have valid concerns that there might be something a bit more sinister going on there, but in the absence of evidence, we thought we'd get their co-news editor on for a chat about what Salient's stance is on it. He initially agreed to engage in some good old-fashioned journalistic discussion about what that might have meant and why they weren't allowed back in there, but he pulled out the evening before saying he was no longer that keen on it, bro. I have to say this sort of thing isn't too uncommon amongst the younger sort of people in positions like this we try to interview. They tend to say yes initially, then their wokeness kind of kicks in a bit delayed and they pull out because he and his blue-haired mates sat around a shisha pipe and one of them said something like, nah, don't come on the platform, bro. But in any case, student journalists, you've done some good stuff in the last year or so, but you've got to get used to some tough conversations if you want to succeed in that job and be back in that room. That is Holier Than Thou for this week. We'll be back again next Friday to hold some people accountable.